bright red lipstick. Have you seen them with their nice white boyfriends? Paisley scarves on scarred shoulders, looking for their wings. Brown girls in bright red lipstick. Where the hell are they? It's Sunday. Driving 80s Commodores, knees dangling kitchen benches. Brown girls in bright red lipstick. Have you seen them with their nice white girlfriends? Reading Pablo Neruda, on fire, the crotch of suburbia and what's inside her. Fingers, Jesus, penis, the Old Testament. Oh, she's promised to a Tongan welder or a buff cookie cliff diver. Brown girls in bright red lipstick. Have you seen them at the beaches? Drowned in virgin olive oil, twirling their hair into soil. Brown girls in bright red lipstick, rearranged up on the stage, making your soft brothers run broken home to mother. Oh, have you seen them washed in twilight, struck by hours and the colors running like mascara, taking yet another lover because she can't sleep, she's walking thunder. Brown girls in bright red lipstick, have you seen them in the kitchen? Shucking mussels, cutting chicken, egging on the lone horizon. Her dark centipedes are hidden. Manusina's glittered lace. Are they veins or blue pathways led to reddest change? Good morning. Malo, malo, malo. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Khan. Thank you, Khan. Thank you, Jade. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you to the amazing team of volunteers and all of the sponsors. Please keep sponsoring this. It's amazing. Thank you to all of you as well for being up and being here with us and kicking off 2016. So I'm Courtney Sina Meredith, and I'm really going to be speaking in and around language, I think. That work is called Brown Girls in Bright Red Lipstick. It's my war cry. It's also the name of my first collection of poetry. And it was interesting to be approached to speak about language because when I grew up, that work didn't exist. That work wasn't out there. So I'm going to be talking a little bit with all of you about Le Savali, which in Samoan means the journey, and it's my journey. And it's really looking at my creative career as this commitment to design the voice that I always wanted to hear, to see, to read. Turn on the TV and see a brown woman staring back at me saying, "You are hot, you're excellent, you can travel, you can be anything that you want to be." So that's what I wanted. When I realized that it wasn't around me, there were voices who were older and I didn't really identify with them. I thought, well, here we go. We're just going to have to create that voice from the ground up. So who am I? Who am I? That's me in the zebra hat. And this is my beautiful grandmother, Rita Sina Meredith. We're in a state house on Taniwha Street in Glen Innes. Anyone else here from GI? Yep, raise. Okay, my mum's from GI. If you're from Howick, that's close enough. That is, yes, raise it up for botany. Yeah, there we go. East Auckland, what? And I, just from a very young age, I felt different to my cousins and my peers and the people around me. I didn't really want to grow up maybe to be a netballer or to be a good wife or to work in a factory or in admin. I had this idea of a different life. I really couldn't articulate at this age what that different life was. So that's my grandmother here, the really pretty one in the tupper dress. And she migrated here with her 12 siblings, a very big Samoan family. So one of 13, just to put that into perspective. That means my mum was born in the 60s. That makes me a second generation Samoan New Zealander. Really interesting context to be speaking from now in a contemporary moment. I often hear people say, but do you speak the language? Do you speak Samoan? And my reply has always been the same. Look, I knew how to name my body in Samoan language when I was a girl. When my grandmother passed away, she really took the language with her. But at the same time, maybe like most grandchildren of migrants here in the room, we were socially engineered a couple of generations back. The dream was to come to New Zealand, to have children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who would have access to education and opportunities like our ancestors could never imagine. So yes, crafting a voice in a family this large, also another interesting challenge. I'm around here. And this isn't everyone. This is our last family reunion. These are the people that could make it. So still a lot of family in Australia, lots of family in America, some family in Asia and other parts of the world as well. When you come from a family this big, do you want to have a voice of your own? Yes. So that's definitely gone into my work. So that's me, early 20s. At this time, I was up to my last couple of papers at the University of Auckland doing a Bachelor of Arts. I had tricked myself for 3 years into thinking I could become a lawyer. So I was at law school for 3 years. And my mother kept saying to me, "What are you doing? Why are you there? You're a creative person." And after 3 years, I felt like I had just given it enough that I could then transfer all of my points across to my arts degree. So I took my poetry to the streets. That's me in Otara Town Square. And I had this burning desire to speak about the women around me. I was really sick of the existing infrastructures for belonging. I'm not waiting for my boyfriend to finish touch. I'm not on my way to youth group. No, I didn't just come from KFC. And I'm not on my way to McDonald's. There's more to me. There's more to my community. There are more to these women around me, but we just weren't visible in mainstream media. So that's me on K Road. I decided I was going to live in an apartment there by myself for a year. I was working full-time for council as an arts advisor, which is how I could afford that. And I was really inspired by K Road. It kept pouring into my work, but I also felt this immense social responsibility with my voice to be giving a voice to others. So while I was living on K Road, I had this kind of collective around me, all young Māori and Pacific women. We were all artists, and we started going into strip clubs and making friends with the strippers who were young brown women as well, and being like, Kare, you could actually be doing a course right now if you wanted. Not that I'm judging you. And we just built up these relationships over time. We made a short film that we showed at a CNZ Pacifica Whanau. And I was just trying to raise awareness of, when we're talking about our people and Pacific communities, is often the creme de la creme that we're acknowledging. When we have so many young people living on the streets, working on the streets, and a really high rate of youth suicide as well with Pacific communities. And so even though I was on this kind of hedonistic independent path of I need to get my voice out there, I'd come home at night and be like, hold on, what's really important? Yeah, so I was in this moment. I was in this scene and I was kind of really intrigued that the scene I was in wasn't anywhere else. Rakinos, who misses that? I do. I miss it like a church. I do. None of the other churches are as good. And I would fall into these amazing conversations with other young brown women. We'd be out together and they'd be saying, I want to do something else with my life. I want to be in another part of the world. I want to find a cure for cancer. I want to write songs with a computer. There are so many things that we were all burning to say and burning to achieve. And there were a lot of nights at Rakino's where I would, out on the deck there, after just one or two Pinot Gris, just start riffing with other people and sharing my poetry and being alongside everyone and saying, we are here, we exist, we're important. This is a moment. This is a really amazing moment, and I wanted to capture that. Yeah, so more and more, I guess, I started talking about rushing dolls in my work. I was really interested in brown girls in bright red lipstick that I kept seeing around on the streets. When my grandma came here, she was still wearing really bright coloured lipstick all the way back then too. And I don't know how many of you have Pacific Island mamas or aunties. They can be dressed all in black, but the lips are like fuchsia, So it's not a new thing. People keep saying to me, oh, your work is so contemporary. It's so now. It's so Super Bowl, the millennium. And I'm like, well, actually, we come from a whole history of bright lips, and also with, the Samoan slap dance, you have the bright red lipstick here on the cheeks. Eventually I was published by Albert Wendt around 24, the age of 24, 24, 25, and at the launch I performed one of the works from the book called No Motorbikes, No Golf, which is my ode to South Auckland. South Auckland what? And Lemi Bonifacio, who is the director and choreographer of Mao Dance Company. I don't know if any of you have been to his works. Beautiful, the buto, well lit, very slow. You have this feeling that your whole life has a sense of purpose being at one of Lemi's shows. So Lemi came up to me after this launch and he said, I will take you to Europe for residency. He's a good family friend. I've known him since I was 7, so it's not a creepy thing. And he was true to his word. He kind of landed me this amazing 6-week residency in Berlin. And for a 25-year-old, big mouth PI girl from down here in Auckland, I'd never been that far in my life. And suddenly I was being interviewed by Bridget Kendall for the BBC. And this interview that we did went out to 40 million people worldwide. And it was this amazing moment to, it was an amazing moment to sit and talk about where I'm from, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and why the women in my work are so unique and new, but also how they're not. They're only unique and new because we're finally discussing them, and they're finally being published, and they're finally in film, but they're not new. It was hard coming home from that because I felt sort of famous for 6 weeks, and I came back to my council job, 9 to 5. Back to waiting for the photocopier. Thank you. Back to waiting for the photocopier. And I needed something to anchor me, so my cousin and I got our traditional malus done on the left hand by Sulawape. That's him up there. I wasn't home for long before I got invited to Indonesia, which I toured with about 20 other international writers. And this was a real moment for me that stretched my imagination around what it meant to be a brown woman. All of the amazing young Muslim women that I met just totally rearranged my soul about what it meant to be a woman of colour. I had all these ideas that being a woman of colour now was about being really fast and advancing new ideas and breaking out of stereotypes. But when I met these women, they were really interested in wisdom. They were interested in how to be intrinsically linked to family and community, just as much as we are. So that challenged me. We went up to a mountain village, and this is a traditional poet's ritual. And I had this feeling as every single petal was dropping that I had played my life exactly right. Do you know that feeling you have? You're like, oh, I'm so happy because here I am. And not long after, we finally launched Brown Girls in Bright Red Lipstick. And that book is really me, 20 to 25, having these hot thoughts, these different ideas, and trying to find an outlet. I'm really proud of the work, and I'm grateful to Sally Greer and the team at Beatnik for taking my vision on board. I mean, to publish the book of someone who's 26 and unpublished up until then is a massive risk. But turned out that people like the work. So here I am opening the New Zealand pavilion for the Frankfurt Book Fair. I felt a huge responsibility because I was the only Pacific woman to represent New Zealand. And I had spent months wrestling with myself over what poem I would use to open the pavilion. And people around me, friends are really helpful, especially friends who don't write. Like, oh, just whatever, just something fast. Just say something fun. Just say a fun poem. It's like, well, when your government has spent $6 million on a project and you get to open the pavilion, you want to say something a bit more than fun. In the end, I actually ended up saying a poem about my cousins and my aunties and my mother and my grandmother. I was talking about the line of women that I was from, and for me that felt right. I came back home, and a month later, Urbanesia came out. So my first play was published, Rushing Dolls. Urbanesia is a word that I created in the mouths of both characters, and it's seeking to represent Pacific communities in urban environments. Auckland Council liked that word, so there's now a regional festival called Urbanesia. 2 years after it started, we've had a good conversation about it now. I love that the word is out there, I created it to be out there, so it is. The next year, I needed a new challenge, and I moved to London, where I found out I wasn't special. And it was the best thing for me. I think I stayed in 10 different houses, maybe 15. I lost count of all the couches and mattresses on the floor. I had 29 job interviews, and I decided to be quite strategic. I thought, while I'm here, I'm just going to go for really big jobs that I probably can't get, but I want to go into an interview process because I'd like to be able to ask these people how they got to where they are. So it was amazing. I had interviews with places like, University of Arts London, and gosh, there are so many big ones. They've all gone from my mind. And when I came back home to New Zealand, I had all of that knowledge with me, and I really wanted to apply some of the things that I'd learned in London here to the art scene in Auckland. Another great thing about being in London was just being close to all these other countries. That's me on my birthday writing poetry in Budapest. Something I never really thought would happen. And while I was in London too, I got invited to the House of Lords, and I was acknowledged as this global thinker. I didn't eat for the whole day. The whole day I was like, I can't eat anything. They think I'm really onto it. What if I get there and they discover, she's just this like crazy chick from New Zealand. But it turned out to be an amazing experience, and I met some of the lords, some of the politicians. There were other artists as well. We had a time to chat at the end, and I don't know what I was scared of. It was lovely. So when I came back home, I needed a new project and a new challenge. I really wanted to stretch myself, and one of my main reasons for coming back to New Zealand was that my voice didn't make as much sense in the UK. I was adding value, I was speaking at universities, I was performing, in East London in the cool spots. But it didn't have, for me, the same effect and impact that it has here with young people. So I came home and decided that I wanted to write a book of short stories. Creative New Zealand amazingly came on board. Thank you for the grant. And other fantastic people came on board too. Lloyd Jones agreed to be my manuscript advisor. Rosanna Raymond wow, leading Pacific Sister came on board with the project too. Janet McAllister has given some really good feedback as well. And very, very, very lucky for me, my mother is actually an amazing writer, and she too has been involved in the process. Thank you, Kim. And I miss the kids. I miss the young people. I missed the privilege of being able to sit there with youth when they don't really know what to do next, and being able to be the voice that doesn't tell them what to do, but the voice that can say, take some time, we'll figure it out. And the number one thing I say, which seems to have a massive impact, is, you know what? You actually have the right to change your mind. This is a new concept in our communities. You have no idea. The right to change your mind. Even if you've enrolled in a course, even if you just started a new job, even if everyone likes your boyfriend and they're like, oh, he's such a nice boy. Oh, you should get married and have babies. He's so nice. You actually don't have to stay with him. This is me giving like a writing workshop back in Glen Innes where my life began. These kids were amazing. They were next level. I actually had to arrange some judges to judge their work because that's how excellent they were. They were like, hold on, well, who's the best? Who's the best? Started last year, did the Prime Minister's Youth Program with Willie Apiata. Amazing to meet a real-life superhero. And we had some other really great partners on board. It's fantastic that Saatchi sponsors that entire program that brings together 25 of the most blazingly wonderful young women, around 6th or 7th form. Sorry, I'm old. I don't know what they call it now in the years. And these women have been through immense challenges, but they still have gone to school every day. Their attendance records are usually 100%. And they've just overcome these great challenges. So they have a week with people like me and Willie where we basically tell them how awesome they are. In February last year, I took on a brand new challenge at MIT. I've lectured there in literature kind of intermittently over the last 3 years. And then I decided to really be initiated into the gang properly. And I'm now the partnerships manager for the faculty. So I'm leading on community and commercial initiatives. I'm on the leadership team, and I'm always trying to make amazing things happen for the school. Like this. This is Akeem. So Akeem and his wife flew down from Johannesburg and they painted Earth on our faculty roof, in these bright red letters, 25 metres across, and it joined us up with a 5-continent project. So little old Otara has now actually become the centre of Arts for New Zealand in this kind of context here, because it was the only site in Oceania where they came and worked. And this was down to relationships I had started all the way back in Germany in 2011. Things continue to grow and develop. This is me in Mexico last year in November, taking my voice for the first time to Central America with a couple of awesome writers. And that's me with Paul Muldoon, who was also in the same festival. Paul is the poetry editor for The New Yorker. He's a professor at Princeton. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning poet. And this was a pivotal moment for me, because here we are in the same festival, sharing our truths, both of us really committed to our craft. And I allowed myself just a tiny half second of because we're Kiwis. That's as much as you can pat yourself on the back. So this year, new things coming up for me. I'm going to be here on the island of Sylt for my next writer's residency in April. I come home, I'm there for a couple of months. I come home for a couple of weeks. I go to Melbourne for a festival there. I come back home, I launch Tale of the Taniwha, and then I have a 3-month residency in America. Thinking about my voice and language and words and everything that I've set out to design and achieve, the foundation of who I am as an artist and as a professional really is my family. This is our family portrait taken by Jane Ussher. Not everyone's in it, it was just who was home. I finally got my feature in Metro, and all Auckland artists will say, oh, I don't want one, but you do. You do. You are waiting for that email. The email came for me, and I was like, yes, yes. I bet the photos will be great, and they were awesome. And this is Miles. Miles is my greyhound who's changed my life. So that's the house on Taniwha Street in the middle. And those are the steps where I used to sit as a girl, and I would imagine that the tail of the Taniwha was just under our front lawn, and it was thrashing around. It was gold and silver scaled, and I really believed that the head of the Taniwha was somewhere like New York or London or Paris. And I decided then at a very young age that I would just find where it was. And this kind of completes the circle for me, and it's really exciting to be putting out a new book in August, where I can just talk about some of these things that I really love, and I can bring Taniwha Street centre stage. But I don't think it's just important for me. I think we're in this strange political moment where we've kind of forgotten where we came from. And that's my great passion and my great vision, and that's the great privilege as well, is being able to take myself, my family and my community out into the world. Thank you.